Okay guys, back to the Stewart Warner radio chassis. I wasn't going to take this power transformer off the chassis because the wiring looked good on it. I was basically going to loosen the screws and lift it up a little bit to slip some painter's tape underneath and just paint it as is after I cleaned it thoroughly. Well, kind of shot that idea tonight, and I was looking at some other stuff here. I think the wires that I was calling ground, these two right here, they aren't ground. This is the ground. Let me find a pencil here to point at. The ground is clear back up under this resistor. Right here is your ground for everything on the transformer, which one lead here is ground, and these two yellow leads here are ground, and it all goes to that central point. And these two yellow wires go back to the small pins on the 80 rectifier, and these two black wires here go back to the two large pins on the 80 rectifier. So these two here have to be the filament wires I was calling ground. Anyway, no matter what they are, I noticed tonight they are really brittle. I'm going to have to do some wire transplanting here. I was hoping not to have to mess with that at all, but I don't want that. You can't have that. That's a fire hazard, you know, just waiting to happen. Plus, I don't like the way that they came through this chassis with just the cloth-covered wire right against the chassis. You know, it opens up another door for a lot of accidents happening, because you know what happens if you wear a bare spot through that cloth-covered wire, or vibration or something like that. You know, you're going to have an arc, and it's going to set this whole thing off. So I've made a bit of a drawing here showing my power leads and stuff like that. We have our two brown wires. One's off the power cord directly. The other one comes off a tap on the power switch. Our black wires that go out to the number 27 tube for the filament. Our brown wire that goes over here to this common ground. Over here on the other hole that comes to the bottom of the chassis. Both our black wires. Both our black wires right here. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong spot. This brown wire and this black wire both go to ground. These two black wires right here go to both large pins on the 80 rectifier. These two brown wires go to both small pins on the 80 rectifier. Check it several times, make sure it's right. It's very easy to get these wires confused, because 99% of the wires in this particular chassis, they're black. Color coding on this particular one is horrible. You know, I've seen some of these, they're multicolor rainbow, you flip them over, but this particular one, everything in here is a black wire. And for the most part, they're okay. The smaller diameter wires seem to be pretty pliable still. It's these larger ones that were taps off the transformer that really give me cause to raise the red flag. I also checked all these here on the audio output transformer. They're plenty pliable still. They're okay. This is all going to be replaced anyway when we're done. It's got a lot of frayed spots in it. So this also gives me the opportunity to try out my new to me 60-watt Weller soldering iron. Letting it heat up over here. I think I got that thing for $3.50 at the Springfield Antique Show. That video I showed you guys earlier this year. So we're going to give a 60-watt iron a try. Mine is only a 40-watt. So it's been recommended to me many times to get a 60-watt. Well, you can get in and get out. We'll heat these connections up. Take our vacuum desoldering pump. Pull it out of there. Throw it in the cup over here. And pull the wires back and pull the transformer off. Well, I've gone and done it now. I took the transformer off. Started desoldering some of these wires, and the solder, even with a 60-watt iron, just wanted to clump real bad. But I think what it is the thing's had some repairs, and some of that solder is just so thick and chunky and blotchy. It wanted to clog my desoldering pump up, and vacuum desolder have gone up, and I just wound up cutting them right down close to the socket on the 80 rectifier tube back here, as close as I could get. So there's still just a tiny little stub of wire there, but these are the two that's in question. They're just solid as a rock. See that? It's busted right in two. So we're going to separate this clamshell, see what's down underneath it here. Boy, this thing may never work again. I might have to box it up and send it out west to one of my favorite restorers and have them put it back together now. I might have gone and done it, and this thing may never play again. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Alright guys, I gotta admit that at this point in the game I'm a little intimidated here. Wow. This is our primary side here where the power comes in off the line cord. Those two wires right there. This is our ground. This is what I believe to be our filament leads. They're really crispy. And on this side we have our wires that go out to the 80 rectifier. This being to the large pin, these two being to the small pins, and then this being our ground on this side. So the only two that's really in question are these two right here, which I guess what I probably should do, and I want you guys to kind of guide me here a little bit, is I'm assuming that I probably should clip them back somewhere in here and then attach a new wire, probably, I'm guessing. I've watched a few people do these, and that's kind of how I think that they should be done if I'm interpreting and understanding this right. That you should cut this wire back, tin it, and then join a new black wire there, and then put some heat shrink tubing over everything once you've done that to all these wires and gotten them back out to a vinyl coated wire, probably. Same on the primary and same on the secondary side over here. Between the two sides there was these covers that went over top of everything here. Then your clamshell, same thing on the secondary side. And then you had these two, there's some kind of a, they're hard now, but they're probably like a cardboard shim that's set down there and kept everything tight. Right now we're looking, actually those went here, we're looking at the bottom of this thing, the numbers being the bottom, facing down to the chassis. And I thought the wires were rubbing against solid steel on this chassis too, and they're not. They got a plastic grommet in there, pressed in. It's probably not plastic, it looks like brass, which that's a good sign of quality, you know. Back in the day, you had brass for everything. These clamshell bolts are brass. The nuts are brass. I mean, these are a steel star washer, of course. Okay guys, well, we're at that point. I'm going to think about this one for a while, you know, not too long of course, because I want to get this all dressed up. These need repainted. I'll clean them up good with alcohol and then we'll repaint it glossy black. Once we get our new leads put on, I ought to be able to set this off to the side while I work on, you know, whatever else next. I'm probably going to have to go out and buy some brown wire. I don't have any brown wire. This being brown, I'm going to change this to probably white here and here. I don't know, their color coding's weird. This kind of looks like brown here, but it could also be like a tannish yellow color. This could be white. There's no mistaking that this here is black. And this is definitely black. These two are definitely a dirty brown. You know, that's the worst thing I don't have is any, on my schematic, there's no color coding of any wires. It doesn't call out anything in that transformer as being two brown wires going to the plate on the 80 rectifier, or two white wires coming in off the switch and one coming off the line cord. You know, our grounds aren't green. I guess I could change the grounds over to green. I do have some green wire. Well, tell me what you think about that, guys, and I want your input on that. Being this is I don't want to mess this up, you know, but I also want to stay with like a common color code too, that somebody was to service this radio later on would know the colors, you know, if they ever had to take his transformer back off. You know, like to make our main lead-in wires say red, and then keep these two black, and make this green for ground, and then do the same over here, except we stick with our natural colors. We go black, we go brown, and we go green for ground. Just an idea. So while I have this off, this also gives me a chance to show you something else I want to try with these capacitors and the restuffing part. So let's work on that for a few minutes. I put all that stuff back there in the corner. I put all my bolts and nuts with it, my transformer, everything's set back here out of the way. Shouldn't nothing bother it back in there. It's not going to fall off the bench or anything like that. Now, we're going to turn our attention to these old capacitors in this radio. I want to try a turn at stuffing these old capacitors with the new modern equivalent. Now, these capacitors were rated at 0.02 microfarad at 1,000 volts. Now, I don't have any 1,000 volts now. The closest I have to a 0.02 is a 0.033, which meets the microfarad requirement, but is 630 volts. And see, all that capacitor is this guy right here, number 31. Find him here. Yeah, 0.02 microfarad at a 1,000 volt condenser. You know, all that looks like is probably some kind of a line voltage noise to ground capacitor of some kind. And I'm guessing the reason it's probably 1,000 volts in case it had to take a line spike. I'm guessing. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I don't see why this 0.033 at 630 wouldn't be more than adequate for this one here. Again, if I'm wrong, correct me on that. I'll have to order them if they are. But what I need to do with this, according to a couple of other YouTube members, is take a heat gun, heat this old tube up on this capacitor here, not to where it's, you know, burning the tube and stuff like that. See, these capacitors don't have the wax coating. These are just a cardboard tube, and we'll heat it up, and supposedly the center should pull out of there once it's heated. So let's give that a try and see what happens. That didn't come out too bad. I had to uncrimp the ends. The ends on these capacitor tubes were rolled over, so I had to take my one pick tool here. It's got a kind of an offset hook on it, like that, and you can edge that in around that edge and just work it around like that, and it opened that tube right up. Heating them up kind of darkened them just a little bit, because it's a little bit of wax. I don't feel like there's wax on these when they're cool, but when they're hot you can see how it just activates that wax again. So now that we have that opened up, here's our new capacitor. Of course, the magic of video with using one hand doesn't help any either. There we go. So it's been suggested to me to put that new one in there and wrap a couple layers of cardboard or tape or something around it to make it fit snug in there. And then what we'll do is we'll take some clear hot glue and fill the ends of those tubes, but we'll stop short, you know, maybe a quarter inch from the end. And then I ordered on Amazon last week dark brown hot glue sticks. Kind of neat. I didn't know that they made them in all different kind of colors like that. And they have blue, purple, red, and anything you imagine they got there. Ones with glitters in them. It's kind of neat with the stuff they have nowadays. But we'll stop that clear hot glue about a quarter of an inch from each end, and I'll roll these back down. I did that on the electrolytics for this Motorola 51X12 back here. You remember that I did the electrolytics. I stuffed new capacitors down inside of the old cardboard tubes and then filled them up full of hot glue, and they worked out just fine. I just rolled the ends back down and brought the glue up to the edge of the roll, made sure everything was in there where I wanted it, and then topped it off on those. These I'll top it off once I've rolled it down with the dark brown glue. So that should turn out really nice. And capacitor lead wise, some of these little shorties here, these little yellow capacitors, don't have the longest leads. So that's where keeping those leads from other projects and stuff like that might come in handy that I have. So I might have to add on to them to get them where I want. This particular one won't matter. It's kind of on the edge right here behind the volume control in this corner right here, so we got plenty of lead on him. So guys, for tonight I think that's about going to wrap it up. That's what I've been working on. Again, to recap a little bit, I think that was the only 1000 volt capacitor in this. Nope, there's another one. There's a 0.02 to 1000 volts that's out on the audio output transformer out here. So I don't know, does the 1000 volts need to stay, or is a 630 more than adequate for these two spots? Give me a shout out about that, and then any tips or tricks you can give me about kind of working on this transformer, because I'm a little I'm a little nervous to mess with that, just the way I am. So till next time guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Stewart Warner part.